It's been a settled and very mild start to the week so far, but stronger winds are on their way. How strong will the winds get and which areas will be most affected on Thursday night and into Friday? And will that more unsettled flavour continue into the weekend and indeed the rest of February, or will high pressure return? Hello, I'm Met Office meteorologist Aidan McGivern, and thank you for joining me for another edition of Deep Dive, an in-depth look at the UK's weather for the next week and beyond. I'll be answering all those questions plus many more in just a moment. But first of all, if you're watching this and you're not subscribed to our YouTube channel, I do recommend that you subscribe. Judging by the last few deep dives, around 60% of you watching haven't already subscribed. So if you do, hit that subscribe button and like this video, then it will help us justify doing more of these in-depth explainers. Happy Valentine's Day. If you do have a warm, fuzzy feeling inside, it may just be because it's unusually warm out there today. Temperatures across the UK above average for the time of year. These are the typical numbers across the UK at the moment. Above average across the country, but for England and Wales, 13 and 14 Celsius in places. And the warmest spots, because the wind is coming in from the south, the warmest spots actually just to the north of any higher ground and across western parts of the UK in particular. So we're talking about North Devon, North Wales, where temperatures could climb up to 16 Celsius. Remarkably mild for the middle of February, although not the warmest Valentine's Day on record. That was in 1998 with a high of 19.1 Celsius. But it's not just the warmth at the moment, of course. There has been some fog around earlier in the day. Let's just take a quick look at what happened earlier in the morning. I'll put on the satellite image here. Now this is Monday afternoon, and as you can see, Monday was a beautiful day across the country, clear skies, and then overnight, under those clear skies, fog formed, and really quite widespread and dense fog formed. And once the visible satellite image sweeps across the screen in just a second, you'll be able to see that widespread fog. Here we go. You can just about make it out across central and southern parts of the UK. It is now clearing, but it's taking its time. So some areas where we've got the fog persisting into the afternoon, temperatures won't be quite as high as those other areas. They'll be a bit more suppressed. But for many, it is a very mild day. And another thing that's happening is this area of medium level cloud you can see, giving some showers there across western parts of Wales, Cornwall, western Scotland. Now these showers are pushing their way north, but we can expect further showers to occur across parts of Scotland into Irish Sea coastal areas as well as Northern Ireland during the rest of the day. And if we play that forward, then you can see what happens over the next 24 hours. Really widespread sunny skies for Tuesday afternoon across England and Wales, eastern and northern Scotland as well. But some of these showers across Scotland as well as Northern Ireland, some medium level cloud as well. Now this medium level cloud is being brought by the southerly wind, and something else that's happening because of that southerly wind is Saharan dust. We're seeing this plume of dust being carried from the Sahara. Our air, essentially, you can follow the colours here. This is the dust concentration. Well, actually, technically, it's the aerosol optical depth, but it shows where the dust is focused, and it's coming off the Sahara there, past the Canaries, and then being pushed up. And this is 6 p.m. This is the forecast for 6 p.m. this evening, Tuesday evening, and you can see quite widespread and quite dense dust across Ireland into western Scotland, and some dust elsewhere across the UK. And so what we're seeing as that dust thickens up in the atmosphere is some optical effects, I think. Some people have already reported beautiful sunsets yesterday and beautiful sunrises today. So watch out for the sunset this evening. Now, it will be somewhat complicated by the fact that there's a cold front coming in. So for the rest of Tuesday, this is going to approach. It's going to thicken up the cloud across western parts of the UK. But really, there could be a sweet spot where we've got some medium level cloud across parts of Scotland, perhaps Western England, Northern Ireland, West Wales, and some of that highly concentrated dust where you get a really nice sunset. Also, another thing that could happen is something that can be called blood rain, where the rain associated with this cold front soaks up some of that dust, and then once the rain falls, then you get some red or brown colours in the water, or maybe some spots in your cars and so on. So that's something to look out for the rest of Tuesday. But really over the next 24 hours or so, it's all about that cold front. Let's take a look at it again. Now, the bigger picture, you can see high pressure for the start of this. Let's go back to the beginning. High pressure over Europe. Now that's bringing this plume of warmth and sunny skies and some dust. But this cold front is really marking the transition between that huge high and the jet stream being very amplified, elongated across the UK, and a more active jet stream and some of these weather fronts wanting to come in from the west. So really for the next 24 hours, it is that change from the more settled to the more changeable weather that we're expecting for the second half of the week. Here's the cold front. It brings a spell of rain in to Western Scotland, Northern Ireland overnight. Ahead of that, still some fog patches forming across southeast and eastern England. They'll soon get out of the way, actually, I think, on Wednesday morning because the breeze will be picking up. And then if we pause it there, that's 4 p.m. on Wednesday. The front is really weakening as it comes across England and Wales, having given some rain for Scotland and Northern Ireland. It's just a few dribbles of light rain predominantly as it crosses England and Wales. Ahead of that, some warmth still, 12 to 14 Celsius for East Anglia and the southeast. And behind it as well, some sunny spells, some brighter conditions, but showery, blustery conditions for Scotland. And then we've got this thicker cloud coming into Northern Ireland. And we'll just move the map there. You can see this trail of cloud and outbreaks of rain. And really that's that Atlantic-driven weather coming our way for the second half of the week. So going back to the bigger picture, and you can see really the succession of weather fronts that we can expect to start to come through. Later Wednesday, here they are. Jet stream a bit flatter across the Atlantic, helping to drive these weather systems in. Now, not only are these weather systems going to bring a lot of cloud by the time we get to Wednesday night and into Thursday, they're also going to bring some outbreaks of rain, some moderate to heavy bursts for a time, but also very mild air. So we've got the mild air at the moment coming from the south, but additional mild air on Thursday coming in from the west and southwest as these fronts come through. This is Thursday morning. One exception, northern Scotland, not so mild on Thursday, but brighter skies here. So really some uncertainty about the exact north-south position of this boundary, but it looks likely that northern Scotland is going to be a bit colder and brighter on Thursday. But for the rest of the UK, we've got these warm colours. We're in this warm sector. And unlike today, it's going to be mild and cloudy and damp rather than mild and sunny. So Thursday, we're looking at warm sector conditions across the country. That's the name given to the air between a warm front and a cold front, this slice of mild, moist Atlantic air. A lot of cloud, drizzle across England and Wales, particularly over western and southern hills, and some of that affecting Northern Ireland and southern Scotland at times as well. Northern Scotland, though, as I mentioned, largely bright skies, a few showers, but largely bright skies on Thursday. Now, by this stage, you'll notice this low pressure starting to approach. So let's take a look and step back just a touch. And this forms, just zoom out a little, this forms as one area of low pressure, then it splits into two. Here we go, there's one area of low pressure, splits into two, so the energy with that low pressure gets split into two, and it's this forward low that gets picked up by the jet stream later on Thursday, and then that allows the low to deepen fairly quickly as it approaches northern Scotland. So here it is, as we end Thursday, go into the early hours of Friday, these tightly packed isobars, the jet stream picking it up, and actually at this stage, you'll notice the low is on what we call the cold side of the jet stream, and that's the side that's where a low can end up. It can deepen quite quickly, the jet stream helping to spin it up as it crosses the north of the UK. And really it's during Friday morning and into the early afternoon that those wind gusts will strengthen considerably across the northern half of the UK. So there's the low, it's carried by the jet stream, and the strongest winds, those tight isobars. Actually, if we zoom in just a touch there, another thing to note there, I'll just turn off the jet stream. those isobars are particularly tight and there's a kink in them just downwind of the Pennines and perhaps the Scottish mountains as well. And what that indicates really is this lower pressure on the other side of the mountains, because the wind's going to be really bouncing over those hills. And that's why we're expecting the strongest winds to occur over the Pennines, perhaps the southern uplands, and for southeast Scotland, northeast England. Now I'll show you what I mean. Let's put on the wind gust graphic and take you through to Friday. Here are the strongest swathe of winds, and this is Friday morning. And let's just pause it there. And you can see this core of very strong winds across southeast Scotland, northeast England, and the Pennines. Now the colours here correspond to the wind gusts on the right there, but a word of caution at this stage. Different computer models are currently saying slightly different things in terms of the depth and the track of that low. Only subtle differences. It's going to be a windy day, whatever happens, and the strongest winds are going to be in the north, and the strongest winds, most especially, are going to be affecting the Pennines, the higher ground of Scotland, and to the east of the hills, so for southeast Scotland and northeast England. But other models don't want winds as strong as this. In fact, this model is currently showing what we think is at the upper end of expectations, so an extreme solution here coming out of the Met Office model. I spoke to the Deputy Chief Meteorologist here at the Met Office just an hour or so ago. What he's expecting is 60 to 65 mile per hour wind gusts peaking over the Pennines and just to the east of the Pennines, as well as eastern parts of Scotland. That's the most likely peak winds, but you wouldn't necessarily rule out this kind of option. We just need another 24 hours, I think, to see those computer models converge a bit more and come up with a more focused range for those strong winds. Either way, it is looking likely that it's going to be the higher parts of northern England and southern Scotland. And really the difference across the country in those wind speeds is quite remarkable. So across southern parts of the UK, if I just skip forward there to Thursday and Friday, you can see the day and the time just on the axes here. And here's the wind gust value. So I just pick somewhere in the south, and really nothing to write home about. We're looking at, on Friday, a blustery day, but 32 to 37 Celsius there across central parts of England, into the Midlands as well. And then by the time you get to the Peak District, it's heading up. It's up to 50s miles per hour. But really those very strong winds, North Pennines and just to the east of the North Pennines. So we're looking at 60, 70 mile per hour from this computer model. But this, as I said, is one computer model run. What we're expecting is a similar kind of distribution, but not quite as high wind gusts for Friday morning and early afternoon. And then just moving it north there, you can see a windy day across Scotland, certainly. So yeah, the area of most concern, I think, across the Pennines, southern Scotland, southeast Scotland into northeast England for really Friday morning into early afternoon. That's when those winds are going to be peaking. Now, after that, as we look ahead to the weekend, now that low pressure does move away, and it's going to be a blustery day on Friday for everyone. The cold front clears south, so that's a spell of rain moving south, and then brighter and somewhat colder air, although some showers across Scotland for Friday. But here's the next warm front moving in for the weekend. And once again, you can see mild air being carried northwards. That colder spell as the front departs on Friday. Then into the weekend, we say hello again to our old friend high pressure. That's building once again from the south, allowing these weather fronts to go on a more northerly track. And by this stage, you can see the jet streams pushing north once again. So that's going to be rising to the north of the UK once again on Saturday and then into Sunday. There are some disagreements again with the computer models for this weekend, only minor disagreements, but really it's to do with the distribution of the cloud and the rain. So it looks likely that this warm front will push north across the UK on Saturday. And then by Sunday, the start of Sunday at least, these fronts will bring some rain to central areas. What looks most likely is that during Sunday morning, this cold front will clear and we've got slightly colder air following southwards. But some computer models keep it generally mild, cloudy and damp on Sunday. Other computer models bring clearer, colder conditions in. So those are the two scenarios for Sunday. Either way, higher pressure is setting up towards the southwest. And looking ahead to the start of next week, actually, that's the main trend taking place. Here's the most likely weather pattern for next week. And really what you can see here, this is from the European model, and this is for 7 days. Most likely we've got higher pressure towards the southwest and west of the UK. So this would allow some frontal systems to come in over the north, but it would allow generally quieter conditions towards the south, so keeping things mostly dry. Not as mild as we go through next week. Well, that's what the indication is anyway, because here's what the corresponding temperature anomalies look like for the same time period. Actually, that's not the same time period as this one here. And it shows just a hint of blues there in the south. Now that would suggest to me that there's, under that high pressure, the likelihood of frost and fog. Some of that fog perhaps lasting through the day, so slightly below average temperatures, but milder to the north where we've got those frontal systems toppling in. So what happens beyond next week, if next week's going to be a repeat of what we've often seen through February, what happens beyond that? Is there any sign of a change on the horizon at all? Well, one thing that people have been chatting about is sudden stratospheric warming, and that is taking place. We're going to see a major sudden stratospheric warming over the next few days. What does that mean for those who are new to this? What it means is that there's going to be a sudden warming in the stratosphere above the North Pole, and that corresponds to a reversal of the winds that normally circle the North Pole in the stratosphere from west to east. What we're likely to see over the next few days is a reversal of those winds, and this shows it here quite nicely. This is the wind speed in the stratosphere above the North Pole, this circle of winds. Here's the average speed, so 20 to 25 meters per second in the stratosphere, and here's the forecast wind speed over the next few days. So it drops out, it goes below zero. These negative numbers there show it going below zero. What happens when it goes below zero? That just basically means it's reversing. And when it reverses, those winds in the stratosphere are then going the opposite direction to the jet stream. So what you might often expect when those winds in the stratosphere are going in the opposite direction to the jet stream is for them to affect the jet stream to perhaps slow it down. And that's why when we get one of these sudden stratospheric warmings, it can increase the likelihood of colder weather for the UK in the winter. But it doesn't guarantee it. There's about a 70% probability of increased cold weather. And the impacts are not immediate. So this is taking place in the next few days. Normally the impacts occur around 2 weeks later. So we're talking about the first week of March. So that's the key time period to look out for an increased probability of colder weather. Why is it an increased probability of colder weather? Simply because the jet stream becomes a bit slower, so you're more likely to get higher pressure building in places, which is difficult to budge. And with higher pressure in places, well, if you're on the cold side of that, whether the wind's coming from the east or the north, then you're more likely to get colder weather, as opposed to the more typical winter weather in the UK, where our weather comes in from the west and it's a bit more mobile, it's a bit more wet, windy and mild. But what we're seeing at the moment is the computer models aren't really picking out anything that's particularly cold. They are picking out high pressure, so this is the most likely pressure anomaly for the first week of March. And it does show higher pressure in the vicinity of the UK, especially towards the north. So this could lead to something colder coming in from the east. However, at the same time, this is the temperature anomaly, and it doesn't particularly show any blues on the map. It shows average conditions in the south and warmer than average for the north. So this is the most likely temperature anomaly for the first week of March. So yes, sudden stratospheric warming over the next few days, and yes, that does increase the chances of seeing some colder weather in a couple of weeks' time. But at the moment, the main computer models aren't particularly picking out anything that cold. However, they are picking out higher pressure in general over the next few days and few weeks, in fact, with the exception of the windy spell later this week, of course. But yeah, that's all I've got time for. And if you've enjoyed it, as I said, please do hit the subscribe button. But that's all for me. Bye-bye.